Hey, Satanico here for Godlovescomics with Swamp Thing episode 15. We're up to issue number 61 now, and I believe this series only lasts till issue 67, so we are in the home stretch. Maybe this episode and one more, depending on how far I go. In the previous episode, we went to an old folks' home where Abby was working and had some abusive coworkers and some fairly strange goings on. The best part was probably some of the digressions into Arcane, but in Hell. But that issue was a fill-in by Steve Bissette, and it was probably one of my least favorite to read so far. And then subsequently a very experimental issue called Loving the Alien, which was based largely on David Bowie's song Loving the Alien. So once again, it was a very somewhat abstract and poetic story in which, as far as I could tell, Swamp Thing was raped by a planet, a mechanical planet, but someone else may have a better interpretation of it than I do. Fortunately, we're on now to issue 61, and this one looks like Swamp Thing, based on this first page, is finally going to make it to the planet of all intelligent vegetation, which he is seeking as a means to find a way back to Earth. The horror was coming across the stars. J586, that's the name of the planet. The landlord trees of the giant Banyam complex stood motionless, arms growing into each other's shoulders, listening to the residents living in their bellies, the Banyams, hearing all that occurs within them, repeat nothing. In a sublimely furnished hollow, that the lease upon the 9th level, Disma and Lockless mate behind screens of painted skin to avoid embarrassing the room. Ideally matched painfully in love, they are surely the perfect couple. Lockless works in olfactory decoration. Disma manages a chemical restaurant. Come fall, they hope to marry before a priest of O. Fertilization accomplished, they disengage with tenderness, with great care. Olfactory decoration would be scent, and chemical restaurant would be, I guess, carbon dioxide and oxygen, perhaps. Dressing, Lockless pulls on his pickled gown, Disma her shirt of albino hair. Both savor the inappropriate shyness that falls between them. Painted screens are folded, stacked away diplomatically. The room asks if their sleep was enjoyable. They nod, exchanging glances, and the Banyam smiles indulgently. They step through its smile into the sultry afternoon. On the branchway, the rustling crowds stroll into slanted sunlight, twigs entwined. The lovers shuffle, laughing, to join them. The horror. Oops. Thought I had read this page, but obviously haven't. The horror was coming across the stars, invisible and without the body. An intangible knot of memories, thoughts, impulses. Foremost amongst these was the horror's urge to reach its destination, the name it chased through the nameless darkness, J586. The gallery hollow on level 7 is cavernous, echo-haunted. Sherlow, the flesh artist, glides through an adoring forest of her admirers, half-heartedly answering questions, acknowledging compliments. A stout conifer, wearing an expensive feather face, asks her to explain an arrangement of dyed meats. Sounds a bit like Lady Gaga. Shirlo tells her that it represents social integration, and the conifer seems satisfied. Merciful, oh, how they bore her. She wonders if this is the price exacted for critical acclaim, to be surrounded by this fatuous, well-meaning thicket, crowded until she feels root-bound. To be alone, is that too much to ask? This is, could possibly be Alan Moore making a little bit of a commentary on how fans were treating him, because he actually grew very tired of the adoration he was getting at conventions and stopped going entirely. But maybe that's a stretch, I'm not sure. Exhibit 10, Colored Fish, ingeniously grafted into symmetrical clusters. They will survive the exhibition, just barely. Very cruel. Low in the sky, beyond the gallery window, Min-Ra is silver and gorgeous. Deciding, Shirlo slips out before anyone notices. Along the branchway move creaking ancients, proud mothers, heavy with fruit, young saplings displaying their fashionable topiary. Her relief alloyed curiously with an obscure disappointment. The great artist walks amongst the common herd, unrecognized. So much like humans do various designs with their hedges and origami, but the Japanese, habit of trimming trees, which the name escapes me, even though it's so easy. But here we have trees and plant lives that do flesh sculptures with the same callousness. The horror drawing closer recalled twin suns and words of hope, recalled another place neither vegetable nor mineral, and the humiliation suffered there, putting aside where it had been, the horror concentrated solely upon where it was going. I look upon the gaping nothingness and I see, I count the rings of my experience, and in each I see, I witness the circularity of all things, and is revealed in them. Imrel, servant of God, stands above the congregation and moves his mouth. He cannot bring himself to voice the hymn. I gaze into the eye of my fellow creature, and is there. Imrel no longer believes this. So is the god. Imrel is a priest, and he's a priest who has lost his faith. I like that they gaze into the eye, because all of these creatures are cycloptic. That's a word. The spinney of worshippers is disappointingly small, and in their eyes, Imrel sees only concealed pettiness, hidden lust, and greed. Where is who made the suns and the planets in his image? Not there, not in those eyes. It could be Swamp Thing is misinterpreted as The service ends, the worshippers leave, filing past him. Do they not see his despair? Do they not comprehend the fathomless, faithless ocean in which he drowns, mumbling endless, perfunctory farewells? Imrel decides to stop living. He will hurl himself from the heights of the Banyam complex, shattering into splinters. Deliberating, he watches the procession ascend the spiral ramps. Then, servant of an absent god, he falls into step with the shuffling damned. Shuffling damned, so do all of these people climb the tree to commit suicide? The horror was almost there, single-minded. It knew only the nearness of its destination as salvation. It did not know how far it had traveled. It did not even know it was the horror. But it was. In his cave of deaf metal, far from the listening Banyams, great Mediful sits vigil over his mentor's withering remains. Dear Jothra, he'd give his ring to walk beside him in amiable silence just once more. But Jothra is gone. And what of Mediful? Without his teacher's advice Is Medful gone also? The people say he's grown too old to defend them. One ring too many. Rumors of the Guardian's decline haven't helped. He wonders if J586 ever needed defending. Advances in eugenics have almost bred criminal tendencies from the population, along with discolored blossom. A day has passed since his last recharging. He recites his oath with little conviction. In forest dark or glade beferned, no blade of grass shall go unturned. Let those that have the daylight spurned tread not where his green lamp has burned. Jothra is dead. Just to walk with him once more through the noiseless lizard gardens. In his cave of death metal, great Medful weeps, and the walls neither hear nor offer consolation. Once again, Alan Moore's cleverness in rewriting the Green Lantern Oath to suit this planet. J586. On the upper levels, Disma buys a bouquet of hummingbirds. And Lockless smiles as she hands them their strings. The smile freezes. Disma is screaming grotesquely. Her flesh begins to twist and ripple. The horror impacted with the most densely populated section of the Banyam complex. Unlike what followed, the impact itself was silent, invisible, betrayed by not the slightest tremor. As the shrieking starts, Shirlo turns to run, but her legs will not respond. One of them is stretching, entangling the couple beside her. Exhibit 10, the fused fish. This is Shirlo's last coherent thought before entering pandemonium. The horror, realizing its mistake, attempted to withdraw, but it was already engulfed far too many people. Its concentration buried beneath an avalanche of voices, of alien personalities. It was too late. Retreat was impossible. The mound of amalgamated bodies quivers as it starts to rise, flailing limbs protruding from its surface, chest merging with that of another. Imrel weeps and realizes the inadequacy afflicting his previous visions of damnation. Trapped in a neurological babble, the horror understood the catastrophe that had befallen it only dimly. The plant life of J586 differed from the flora it had animated upon other worlds. On J586, the plant life was already sentient. True enough, it wasn't the case on Earth, or even on Ran. And there's an amazing double-page spread. All of these one-eyed bodies merging like roots into Man-Thing's hands. So he's accidentally inhabited the plant life, which is sentient on this world, which is creating tremendous chaos, as you can see. Beautiful page. Alan Moore is back as the writer. Rick Veitch and Alfredo Akela are back as the artist, and Karen Berger as the editor, from an idea by Stephen Bissett. So that's a cool thing. And sadly enough, Karen Berger, it reminds me, as the editor of Vertigo, former editor of Vertigo, that Vertigo has closed its doors at DC, which was announced just a couple of days ago, which is very sad news if that maintains, that remains to be true in the future, even if I don't read it. But once upon a time. Merciful, oh, look at it. It is too much for the eyes to comprehend. It rampages, as if mad. The buildings will be damaged. The Banyams will regrow, but these poor people, what of them? Disma, where am I? All these voices inside my mind. Is one of them yours? Just like the fused fish, the crowd is inside me. Lockless, is that you? punished because my faith was weak. Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! It's heading towards the nursery sector. Can we shoot it down with a battery of flame cannons? Shoot it, Major. That horror is made of people. Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Lockless. It's you. I recognize your memories. There's us this afternoon, but from your viewpoint. Hello, please? Who else is here? I'm Sherlock. Have you heard of me? I've never been this close to you before. Cast me into this hell of other people. Never so close. 1,000 different voices below in an incomprehensible language deafening as all the choirs of Armageddon, hopelessly encumbered by their strings, the feathered bouquets of the bird vendors make futile bids for freedom. Stop it! But escape is impossible. Lockless. Then where are we? It's like we're dreaming each other's dreams. Look, in this pool, that's us embracing as we see each other. Do I cling so tightly? Us, ridiculous. I'm not that lifeless. Kind of funny as people see themselves having sex. They're always disappointed, I think. But that's how you see me, clinging, maneuvering you into marriage. Oh, look, they're dwindling, get smaller. Disma, I've tried to be responsive, but you're not satisfied. Its cells raised disharmonious voices. The horror moaned. Swamp Thing's eyes and brow also serve as their dreamlike visions of their relationship. And 1,000 voices echoed its lamentation. Lamination? Feel like that's a typo. Frightened. There, O's priest, he'll guide us. I can't, my faith. It's crippled. No, it rises behind you, mountainous, big enough to shelter us all. Safe, with friends, everybody's thoughts, wonderful. Some nerve clusters integrated harmoniously, while elsewhere cacophony endured longer. Such distress, who? Sherlock, an artist. Did she hallucinate that image? No, this painting isn't mine. Plant forms are too personal. Those blackened and sensitive stumps, oh, they're lonely. Some participants suffered neural purgatories. Others found cortical paradise. See, we emerge from barren valleys unto green meadows, as O's book foretold. Look, the stumps of the martyrs, set at Elysium's mouth. Oh, praise O! Heaven and hell were inside it. The horror screamed. J586, elderly Chalkis, takes the evening light upon the upper branchways, exercising his favorite shrub of immaculate pedigree, but quite unintelligent. Essentially, a dog is a shrub, or the shrub is considered a dog, a pet. He encounters Olmuth, wheeling her yearling Darkseid. Condensation fogs the plastic bubble of the child's grow pod. Ever garrulous, Chalkis lists his shrub's misdemeanors, the yearly shedding, shaken pollen on the potted apes, and the public beaster chards. From his misted sack, Darkseid whimpers, picking up the infant. Olmuth happens to glance along the boulevard. Something that threatens reason is running between the banyan blocks. Gathering Darkseid reflexively in her brittle arms, she makes way for the branchway's far side. She hears Chalkis, stupid with terror, calling his shrub's name repeatedly, urgently. Nambical! Nambical! Everything is noise then. As the horror passes, she glimpses, Horror skin which seems to move. Just too late to stop herself, she realizes why. All pretense of a safe universe is planed savagely away, and Alma screams. The skin is moving with people from this planet. The shrub coughs plaintively. The child shivers against her shoulder. She and Chalquis stare numbly across the sudden chasm beneath them. It is a gulf of silence, an event so large it can never again be mentioned. Elsewhere, amongst shadows and voices, Lachlan and Disma overlook a similar abyss. Physically fused with her, Lachlan shudders, imagining a lifetime of such proximity. Even as Disma recoils from the yawning void of his absent passions. Wow, this has exposed the mistake that was their love. It seems so blissful right before this. The horror drew back lips made of small boxes, bared teeth, and waved tiny fists. 50 mad faces stared unblinkingly from behind each eyelid. The voices inside it argued. Most of them said, "Run." In the gallery of Sherlow's soul, all the pictures are barren, all the statues isolated. She is alone. She has always been alone. Outside the art-bound walls of her prison, the crowd sounds so happy. The horror swiped blindly, gestured inarticulately, a nothing but a muck. In each hand, a polite, well-mannered family clenched its fist of bitterness and recrimination. The horror ran palms damp with angry tears, fingers quarreling. A child remembers wearing white moths in her hair, a birthday treat. A vagrant wonders if his thinning foliage will last the winter. Imrel touches each one, joining in a circle of shared sensation, and that circle is O. The horror trampled on feet made of clerks and soldiers and laborers. "It's coming! We can't let it reach our nurseries. Prepare flame cannons. No, wait. We are delivered. It is he." It's the Green Lantern of this planet. Great Medfill. He'll know what to do. Yes. But has he the power if the Guardians are truly dispersed? No, Medfill will save us. In the great wake of the Os, he wrestled a continent. The great wake of 05. But back then, great Medfill was younger. His will was strong, and the green fire burned fierce upon his knuckles. Back then, Jothra was alive. Medfill is our champion. Medfill's old. You're right. One ring too many. One ring too many. Oa's flame gutters and changes wind. If only these few lamps remain to light a darkening cosmos, can there ever be one ring too many? No, of course not. Committed Green Lantern raises his ring. And the horror is cored by an expert blade of emerald. And dozens are sliced from bud to root, and the gutters are sticky with the sap of innocence. No, not violence. Restraint? And great Medfill clenches his mind, and the horror is manacled by shackles of great underwater light, and the children are crushed against an unyielding phosphorescent, splintering as the monster struggles against its chains. No, something else, stunning it perhaps. And the horror staggers, then topples, an avalanche of screaming timber, A log slide of people and their unidentifiable fragments are scattered over several blocks. No, 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 no! Nothing's happening. Look at him, frozen like a petrified fern. Great Medfill, help us! Why doesn't he do something? If only Jothra were here, with his martial skills, his wisdom. Conflict itself is your only true foe. You cannot defeat it by physical force, because it is physical force. To defeat conflict, you must engage your opponent's mind. Engage the mind. Touching the flesh endangers innocence. Yet buried beneath that mountain of innocence must be the mind. The amalgamating force that animates them so grotesquely. The Green Lantern of J586 concentrates, and his will is a terrible, roaring thing, a cold sunburst, perched upon his fist, a handful of extraordinary lights, more dazzling than the frightening crowns of Elmo's fire, the sky sometimes bestowed upon taller banyams. More fascinating than a lighting embroidered night. A lighting embroidered night. The brilliance dances. The onlookers are a motionless forest, such as might not be found throughout the breadth of J586. It's pretty incredible artwork here. Really fascinating. The horror pauses, captivated by a moire of fluorescent lime. To either side pulse strobes of electric jade. Carefully, Medfill increases their frequency. At 19 cycles per second, the horror becomes rigid, transfixed. The mind of a corporate entity must harbor some degree of confusion. A confused mind is not difficult to distract, offering little resistance. Thus distracted, the horror may perhaps be dismantled. This at least is Medfill's plan. Through the shimmering glamour, the great lantern extrudes ray tentacles, powerful and sensitive, all the while maintaining the strobing optic display. With some satisfaction, he notes that he'd not have dared attempt this as a younger being. Like a shark farmer about his harvest, Medfill hauls upon a dozen lines, reeling in each reclaimed soul, as the green photon fingers untangle it from the mesmerized central mass. The dismantling begins. You always have to wonder when someone like Alan Moore is talking about the mind of any corporate entity must harbor some degree of confusion. Thus distracted, the horror may perhaps be dismantled. Because he certainly would have liked to have dismantled DC and Marvel near, maybe even at this juncture in his career. If this had happened earlier in the series, I would have doubted that. But at this juncture, seems rather intentional, that wording. Untangled, set gently down on the green threads. From above, Disma and Lockless seek words where no words remain. They know each other intimately, crushingly. Nothing remains to be said. She is the first to turn away, just. Unraveled to the chest of the horror's heart flies into pieces, each fragment lowered to the solid earth as though it were porcelain. Melting in a luminous rain, the horror's breast is torn, spilling people. Children gather about Imrel's legs, clutching at his robe, and his spirit soars. Their faces are turned up to watch the pyrotechnic marvel of the heavens, each mouth frozen into the same divine syllable, "Oh." Now only his feet remain, where the greatest injuries have been sustained, though without fatality. Binding fractures as best he can, Medfill reflects upon that part of the horror which, when left, the people have been pared away. Amongst the last rescued, Shurlow finds the crowd already dispersing, discussing their shared experience as they wander away together. Scarcely hesitating, she runs to follow. If they reject her, there's always the highest levels, the longest drop. Its component atoms scatter, returning to their families and lives. Only its essence lingers, a web of knotted light strung on empty air. Sealed inside a green glass jar, Great Medfill saves the horror soul for later. Again, another really great page. This long vertical panel here, I guess indicates Swamp Thing's soul. Here's, of course, the Green Lantern ring. Later. And this is the jar containing Swamp Thing's essence and dead Jothra, who he is still mourning, apparently. Greetings. If you're capable of verbal communication, my ring should be translating for you. I am Medfill, the Green Lantern of J586. The question is, I think, what in O's name are you?
I am the Swamp Thing of planet Earth. A change in my bioelectrical pattern has made me incompatible with my own world. I am condemned to wander the stars, seeking a cure.
And causing havoc?
I am truly sorry. I did not realize that all plants here are sentient. Having formed a body, my mind was submerged in a mass panic, too confused to withdraw. Please, I was told I might find help on J586.
We have disciplines to modify the vibrational rate of the biofield, if that would rid us of you. Learning them would take time.
I am reluctant to remain incarnate for too long with no vegetation. I can safely inhabit with no prospect of a body.
It's interesting. He's looking at Jothra's dead body. So I think he has an idea. Indeed he does. And another great 2-page spread of all vertical panels. And in his cave of mute iron and discrete rock, Great Medfill's sap churns with an indecision unknown since first he fathomed the weird of the green lamp. And finally he decides that yes, it's blasphemy. Of course it's blasphemy. And suggests it anyway. And oh, see there, his hand, Jothra's hand is moving. These lizards are decoration in the same way that humans use plants as decoration. It seems terribly cruel. To walk with him once more in the knowing silence between the thorny clusters of rotting sun-gazers, past where the Gilas sprawl like overripe fruit, yellow and black and poisonous. Their ammoniac aroma is heavy and sensual, permeating the long afternoons with an exquisite, unbearable nostalgia. By night in the cavern of lamps, Great Medfill watches living lightings oscillate upon a censer pedestal as antique demons dance in their chalk circles. Observing a feedback screen image of its wave patterns, it notes their changes and learns to control them unfettered by the base substance it leaps, burns, it's glorious, the very soul of the great lantern itself. Through glades of jeweled lacertas, cool and ocean green, pretty females glide in a conversation, wearing sprays to mask the scent of their flowers for modesty's sake. Jothra seems to smile reminiscently. Medfield bask in his mentor's presence. Recalling his humor, his kindliness, Jothra would eat only animals, never the flesh of lower vegetables. So essentially he's a vegan in their terms. The memories are glad and plentiful, and so the days pass. Come after dark, the reanimating spirit is set loose, eager for its exercise, and green arc light flashes on the walls of damp basalt. A sine wave shimmers, condenses into a jagged sizzle, then stretches in a funnel of luminous threads towards the vaulted shadows above. How quickly this demon learns, cavorting in its chalk circle. It will not abide for long in this place. Reared upon their hind legs, monitors sway gently in the dusk winds. High above, tethered to the spars of crystal, dwarf pterodons clack drowsily to each other, settling down for their dark, and with their sparse bone percussion, the evening is made perfect, made complete. Filled with the sentiments that have no names, Medfield holds his master and knows that this is the last night. Joining us, this looks like not a monitor so much as a gecko, but I'm not sure. But all kinds of lizard decorations, and previously strings of hummingbirds, fitting and yet simultaneously kind of horrific. You will be leaving soon.
Yes, I'm confident of my ability to modify my wavelength, assured that the Earth will once again accept me. I am anxious to return there. I cannot thank you enough for aiding me so, when I have brought you only trouble.
No, not trouble. You must not think that.
You are too forgiving. I shall impose upon you no further. Goodbye, my friend.
Wait. You have given me more than you can possibly know. You've given me a chance to come to terms with my grief. A chance to say goodbye to Jothra? From their separate windows, Disma and Lockless watch the emerald shooting star ascend. Elsewhere, Shirla wants to paint it, to capture its loneliness. Imrel pauses in mid-sermon, takes it for a sign. And in the lizard gardens, great Medfield weeps, and the weeping is good. From J586, a bolt of Greek fire crackles into the void, going away. So this event of Swamp Thing, the horror coming, had all sorts of positive and negative implications in the sense that it allowed Medfield to deal with his grief of losing Jothra. It broke up a loving couple of Disma and Lockless. It emphasized Shirlo, the meat artist's loneliness and probably in her isolation. And it restored Imrel's faith. And so all kinds of different implications. Going home. It's good of you to help me to get this acid rain report together after all the weirdness the other week. I figured maybe you'd steer clear. Oh, hey, no way. I mean, I guess I did. It did freak me out a little bit, but but hey, I mean, I know you were into some strange spaces all along. You want some of this? No. No thanks. I don't. That's cool. It's a real trip working with you on this. I mean, I haven't known you for very long, but, gang. Uh-oh, Chester, I don't know who that is, but, hide that stuff while I answer it. This is Louisiana, remember? Abigail Cable? Do I have the right address? Yes, I'm Abigail Cable. Strange. I'm Adam Strange. I've got a message for you from your lover, the swamp creature. He told me to tell you that he's alive, and... What? Alex said this? Oh, God. Whoa, slow down. What is all this? I wonder what happened to Adam Strange in his time from leaving Ran back to Earth. I guess he had to come back to Earth to battle something, I guess, and looks like he broke his arm in the process. Well, the complete message was I was asked to give Miss Cable is that Swamp Thing is still alive and promises to return as soon as he can. Oh, this is wonderful. I can't believe it. Where is he? I met him on the planet Ran in the Centauri system, but he was heading to J586 near Minraw. After that, all being well, he may be coming home. He helped avert a famine, and I said I'd deliver this message as a repayment. I traveled back and forth between Ran and this planet on the Zeta Beam, quite regularly, so you see it's really no trouble. No, well, you just call up your Scotty on communicator and tell him to Zeta Beam to the hell out of here, you goddamn lunatic. But, come on, man, I think maybe you better split. Okay, she thinks that this is such bullshit that he's not even telling the truth, which of course he is. But you don't understand. I've been doing this for years. Now there's a flash of light and I'm on another planet. Yeah. I sometimes get that. He gets it when he's on drugs. Probably mostly mushrooms, hallucinogens of some sort. And it's a fantastic cover, 62, kind of a classic, and I think a classic play on a Jack Kirby cover. Rick Veitch and Alfredo Akela again, even though the cover is by Steve Bissett. Yes. Terrific cover. They were lovers, sire. Lovers in a place of giants. I visited them often in their bridal suite and was witness to the spectacle of their frozen passion. There to ponder the lessons of futility on display, sculpted by the living flesh of beings. I hate when that happens. There to ponder the lessons of futility on display, sculpted by the living flesh of beings the size of star clusters, poor celestials, like ourselves, who dared attempt that which I once saw was unattainable, condemned to drift in eternal, humiliating separation from each other and from the source. And it looks like the New Gods, which is where that cover is from. And so, sire, I found my way back to the last signpost on the fringes of the known universe, the Promethean galaxy, where dwells the curse of Metron. I should have known. Another rivulet of reality that my Mobius chair has opened to me, only leading back to the source. The one constant in a universe of change that remains as ever serene, omnipotent, all-wise, The ultimate mystery hidden behind the final barrier. These poor creatures were once searchers. Like myself, they tried to enlarge their atomic structures in hopes of engulfing the final barrier. How sad when hearts that once lived only for each other take 1,000,000 years to feel a single beat. They cry out that all hope of the unveiling the source is folly. If that is true, then Metron's whole life is folly. And perhaps it is time he took his place among the other failures. Perhaps. But not this time. There's still too much to learn. Surely the answer I seek already exists back there in the universe teeming with life. I need only let it find me. Eh? What's this? It was a signal, sire, so pathetically faint that even my wondrous Mobius chair could barely follow it. Stranger, still it seemed to be emanating from the shoulder harness of one of the frozen colossi. Always curious when confronted with unexplained phenomenon, I decided to investigate. I'm sure the madam will pardon this intrusion in the name of science. Amazing. Things are growing in here, bizarre flora that I've never encountered before, somehow tenaciously clinging to life in the artificial environment of her spacesuit. Just a few samples for further study, then I'll track down this mysterious signal. I'll be damned if it doesn't sound almost familiar. Ping, 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 ping. By Highfather's beard. It's a mother box, swollen to the size of a small moon. As you know, sire, each mother box possesses a mystical rapport with nature, although as a scientist, I've always had little use for such hocus pocus. I hear you. Yes, I can help you. But first, I'll have to shrink your atomic structure back to something more manageable in size. Shrek. Ping, ping, ping. That energy drain was significant. I wouldn't want to attempt such a feat with your owner. You're not one of the sleek new units that I see so many young gods relying on these days. You're an older model, one of Hymon's earlier designs. I remember from my own youth. I can't imagine anyone relying on something as crude as a mother box to breach the final barrier. Celestials were so naive in those days. Perhaps the curator of the Highfather's museums will find some value in you. I'll set a course for Highfather's staff. And imagine my surprise, sire, when I pressed the studs on my wondrous Mobius chair, and instead of slicing through time and space, it merely coughed and dropped like a stone. What the? This is absurd. My chair has never failed me. Never. What's wrong with my chair? By Darkseid's demons, the precious X element is depleted. And without it, my miraculous Mobius chair is nothing more than a piece of furniture. This is your fault. If I hadn't wasted all my energy reducing your atomic structure, do you have any idea what you've cost me? Of course, sire. You know better than anyone what it would take to obtain the original X element. And I had nothing but time to ponder the price of replacing it. The humor of the situation is that if I might still be out there, but for that wretched mother box, ping, 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 deeply into one of deeply into one with nature. She had found something passing by in the void and had managed to pull it in. Ping, 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 ping. And there is Swamp Thing's soul or spirit or whatever it is. Something that first appeared as a self-contained field of pure electromagnetic energy. It danced around me like a swirling dervish until suddenly, as a starving man smelling food, it leapt towards my inert Mobius chair. There, to gain a miraculous foothold on the physical plane, but most astonishing of all was that formed and stood before me was neither man nor machine nor pure energy form. Slorp, plop, squash, flop. And now he's golden. He was a vegetable. And this one is another guest writer. Again, this time it's Rick Veitch, who's also the penciler, and the inker is Alfredo Acala. So in the past 3 or 4 issues, we've had Steve Bissette fill in and Rick Veitch fill in. This was at a time, I believe, when Alan Moore was crushed with the burden of the monthly pamphlet issues of Watchmen, and maybe was having trouble with deadlines.
Fear not. I mean you no harm. Just tell me, where am I this time?
Ask her. She's the one who brought you here. Personally, I was hoping for something a little more godlike. Ping.
This was the comforting voice that called to me in the void. It is strange that you would address a machine as her. And yet, I feel it too, that somehow she is alive. Alive and trying to tell me something. Everything.
Oh, she'll nag your ear off if you let her.
She tells me she brought me here because you wish to go there, into what she calls the source.
Wrong. What I need now is transport for myself and my equipment to a place called Apocalypse.
No, your destiny is there, within the center of everything. And now that I've seen it, so is mine. Humph.
And what other fantasies has this calculator informed you of?
That she and I, working together, can take you into the source and back.
It is not for one such as I to ride ungainly into the arms of some monstrosity. When Metron conquers the final barrier, he shall do so as the celestial he is, seated in his wondrous Mobius chair.
Some of the most difficult lessons in my journeys have concerned power and ego. I've learned it is not wise to let self-image get in the way of understanding.
If you understood what it meant to be a god, you'd know I have no choice.
Then my choice is to cooperate with destiny and become your vehicle.
Ha! An elegant solution for such a lower life form. Perhaps I will consent to accompany you as your pilot, of course.
Of course. Although I have never moved my physical body through the void, Mother Box says that she can make it possible, just as she provides the boost we need to clear the gravity of this Promethean giant.
And so, sire, we quickly left the realm of frozen failures behind on a collision course with the final barrier. Tell me, O vegetable, by what method do you intend to transcend the barrier?
I have recently come from a place where I learned how to control the frequency of my electromagnetic field. Mother Box indicates that all existence is purely vibrational at the most basic level, and that to explore areas beyond our needs, our own, one needs to only oscillate at other frequencies.
And this is something you're familiar with?
It is Mother Box that truly understands. She makes it so easy to play subtle variations upon the harmonic scale of nature. I've been doing it crudely for a long time. Only now am I beginning to fathom just how far it might take me. I recognize this level. It would be green if there were a planetary ecosystem nearby in the physical realm. And here would exist the domain of souls, where there are a race of sentient beings to make it their paradise.
What's happening? Where are we now?
I do not know. Mother Box has pushed us into realms that are new to me. She has started our vibratory pitch. We are entered a place where gross and soulless matter are the dominant life forms. I can feel my heartbeat slowing, each thought crawling at glacier speed. That damned Mother Box. She's turning us into Promethean giants. I knew it. At this point, sire, a lesser celestial being might have shown fear. Fortunately, the vegetable was holding up quite well. Better, in fact, than one might expect. It was later that events overtook his sanity. Later, when we entered the source. But first there was a bit of unpleasantness that had to be dealt with. Metron, is that the source?
Not likely. It's a transmuter. They're posted all along the fringes of reality. They work the dense compost of creation into globules of higher matter to be fed back into the great scheme of things. They're well known to those who ride the dimensional waves.
Amazing. I could never imagine that so much pure creative energy could be focused in one place.
It only means we traveled in the wrong direction. The source is the center of everything. Therefore, it must be at the highest part of the spectrum.
I would have thought just the opposite.
Watch out, he's looking this way. He sensed us. If he fixes his gaze on us, then we too shall suffer transmutation. You've got to increase the vibration rate. Propel us out of here and into the source now.
Mother Box says what you are asking for is impossible. Arr!
Fool, we either attain the source among the living or among the dead. And as I stand before you now, sire, he did it, although the cost was high. Somehow the vegetable was able to attain the correct vibrational pattern, and at the last possible instant open the final barrier and provide an answer to the ultimate question, at the expense of his own sanity. As I come now to the inevitable climax of the story, my despair as a narrator begins to describe the source. How does one convey the act of seeing all of infinity within one gigantic instant to drink in billions of actions, the totality of everything observed from every point in the universe, all in less time than it takes to draw a single breath. Even my great intellect was overwhelmed by it, sire. What my eyes saw was simultaneous and occupying the same point. So I can only account for what wonders I was able to focus on and remember in that tidal wave of information. And I saw it all, sire, from the great galactic structures to the lowliest swarms of microbes. I saw them from every angle. I saw the comets sowing seeds of life throughout the emerging star systems. And then I saw that life fully evolved 1 billion years later, grazing on the fertile plains of numberless planets. I saw the gods in their final conflicts tearing through the mythical worlds asunder in orgy after meaningless orgy of violence. One of them was my own father. I saw a street in the heart of Chicago. Looked in all the windows, looked out all the windows, see all the streets on Earth, on all the Earths. I witnessed a multitude of universes collapsing upon each other, attempting unification into a single coherent cosmology, leaving innumerable sentient beings unaware of what happened, living their lives as if all were normal, as if the great wheel of creation hadn't been thrown crazily out of balance. I shielded my eyes from the glare of the trillion suns reflected in 10 trillion oceans, while I followed a single spider spinning her silken web in the dark corner of the Great Pyramid. I felt the pulse of all the lifeblood pump through all the veins and arteries of all the living things. I swam the heaving seas and counted each microscopic life form contained therein. I rode upon the glaciers as they ground mountains into grains of sand. I saw a long war between light and darkness resolved as heaven and hell intertwined into a seductive mating dance. In a garret in Buenos Aires, I sat typing with a genius, blind for 20 years. I played tight end for the 49ers in last year's Super Bowl. With my tribal brothers, I felt the cool Paleolithic breeze as we feasted upon the flesh of our enemies. I ran with the lemmings on the obvious mad dash into oblivion. I drank the wine of every fermented grape. I cried in humiliation along with each Promethean giant, then laughed at their spectacle. I laid the paving stones for the first highways of man, and sat stalled in the choking gridlock of his present-day streets. I dreamt right along with sleeping humankind and saw how they have yet to awaken in these realms, and mapped each snowflake that has ever fallen or ever will. It's Kirby's Sandman. And this number right here, 70, on the tight end, suggests that Rick Veitch doesn't know very much about American football, even though he is American. I smelled rancid grease dripping on the stovetop counter and wondered at the beauty of the Taj Mahal. I felt with pterodactyl wings beatings furiously in an attempt to outrace extinction. I saw the seasons of the year unfolding, all the seasons of all the years of baby kittens suffering distemper. All the pawns moved and all the games ever played, a peacock spreading his feathers, revealing the gaze of 100 jeweled eyes. I saw the heel of a shoe crushing a delicate flower. The mania and delusions that accompany all civilizations. I watched the elements being formed within the crucibles of the stars. The gases that brew in the closed systems of the planets, the omens that augur all future acts, 666. A gambler discards. I saw time not as a linear progression of events, but as a single harmonic explosion. I saw a pebble tossed into a pond, rippling out in perfect concentric patterns. I followed the spoor of the Yeti. I lifted the columns of the Acropolis in the fear and honor of the gods. I knew the hubris of our ancestors. As I looked down on these offerings, I saw a great ship, its rudder gone, side split asunder by a treacherous reef. I was the reef, a complete ecosystem, welcoming the ship's crew to my watery bosom. I felt the mother box and understood her communion with nature, her connection to the vegetable, and his connection to the earth. I saw his face screaming as the madness overcame him. I saw my face. I saw your face, sire. By my brow, Metron. You academic chicken. You've not entered the source at all. That transmuter hoodwinked you with an aleph. Alephs are points from which one can observe all other points in time and space. They are considered parlor tricks to any sorcerer worthy of his trade. You spent too much time trying to unravel the physics of reality, Metron, and not paid enough attention to Cabal. Let me warn you. There shall be no room for intellectuals in this universe when Darkseid solves the anti-life equation. An aleph? Then the source retains its mystery? And I've nothing to barter, sire? Nothing I can offer in trade for more of the X-element? No hope of regaining my reputation through the power of my Mobius chair? Despair not, Metron. I have need of other types of knowledge, and anything that might assist with the computation of the anti-life equation. But what, sire? I've told you everything. Well, this vegetable interests me. How came such a being into existence? Who is he? A legend, perhaps? Well, he did come from Earth originally. Before Azora departed for Earth, he spoke of his many enemies there, accounts that had to be settled, a woman he fancied. In truth, he was a strange being, filled with the kind of longings one associates with humankind. I sensed he carried great power within him, an elemental power that operated perhaps on a planetary scale. Yet you say he went mad. Tell me, what would cause one so powerful to lose his sanity so quickly, so efficiently? It was what he saw when we entered the Aleph, sire. In fact, Mother Box had to remove all of his memories of the experience in order for him to function well enough to return to his normal reality. I suppose she would. Then she would have a record of what the vegetable saw and felt while within the Aleph. I suppose she would, sire. Then I would review this record. Of course, sire. It's just that the Mother Box fears you so. She doesn't want to tell you anything. Perhaps if I bypass her emotional circuits. Ping, 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 ping. The important thing to remember, sire, is that in the overwhelming plethora of images that confronted us in the Aleph, we could only focus upon a select few. In the case of the vegetable, when given the ability to look in on anything in the universe, he chose to view the one element of his existence that was of the greatest import to him. Abby, my love, I can see your whole life spread out before me. I see you as a child in the arms of your father, as a victim of your uncle's blasphemous evil. Oh, Abby. Why can't I touch you? Your life has gone on while I stand a voyeur on the edge of infinity. There's so much that I never knew, Abby. Didn't want to know. There you are, waiting on a customer in an all-night diner. You look so young. Sleeping alone, scrunched up with a copy of The Secret Life of Plants. But oh, the moments we somehow shared. The tiny slices of paradise. The twisted corridors of hell. I love you, Abby. I need you. Forgive me, Abby. Sometimes I despair. Despair for the future. The future, our future together, oh please. Embracing you, your full lips brushing my own, in the swamped, free from all prying. Is it possible? A white hand slowly turning green. I'm diving for pearls in an ocean of emerald light. I see you lost, but happy, laughing. There is no danger, nothing to fear. The white hand, now emerald, grasping the young shoot. Constantine. A carnivorous plant the size of a football stadium. Abby, what are you and Constantine? The parliament of trees demanding. Abby, but I love. A man burning, running for the swamps. Burning. A parched and chalky hand, now green, pulling the shoots out by the roots. Another man burns. Abby. The green dimension withering, rotting, dropping away piecemeal. Abby, your love. A witch doctor, deep in the New Guinea forest, grinding powders into a ceremonial bowl. Your love. More screaming, a woman burning. Your love was all. My name is Alec Olson. No, Holland. Your love was all that kept me. The burning, no, please don't let me. All that kept me. Stop the burning. All that kept me sane. Ping, 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 ping. Great image there of Darkseid actually sitting in the Swamp Thing chair. The Swamp Thing, I guess, is inanimate at the moment, and Metron sitting in his dysfunctional Mobius chair. So you see, sire, Mother Box provides nothing but the ravings of a soul in torment. How can such be of use to the master tormentor himself? Be not so quick to accept defeat, Metron. It is unbecoming of a celestial, even one with your questionable ethics. To Darkseid there is value in anything that can turn a being of such power into quivering jelly. I think we owe this Mother Box a debt for relieving his dementia and preserving a record of it for us. Here, Metron, take your precious X-element. Go back to your explorations. Just be sure that when you actually break the final barrier, you remember your benefactors. Sire! And you, little Mother Box, you fear me, do you? Haven't you heard that Darkseid is a doddering old fool who spends his days working his cipher? That's right, adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing. But it doesn't add up. I fear this as long as the anti-life equation is unsolved, as long as a scrap of free will exists anywhere in the universe, then Darkseid remains unfulfilled. There are so many variables in my cipher, so much that still eludes my reckoning. That is why I'm grateful to Metron and to the vegetable, and yes, even to you, little Mother Box. You have exposed one of the most painful roots of madness, and thus added an essential element to the anti-life equation, an element that has escaped me until now. One which Darkseid was not capable of anticipating. Squawk. Crushed. love. Next, Loose Ends Reprised. So that's it for, I believe, issues 61 and 62. Let's see. Finally got to the planet of all vegetated life. Sentient vegetable life. Sentient plant life, I suppose. And we'll take on the New Gods and the Mother Box, brilliantly incorporated into Swamp Thing's journey back to Earth. And this jagged Steve Bissette cover will start issue 63. As we have only 4 more issues left, I'm going to call it quits here now for those 2 issues that we've already read. And this was episode number 15. Hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you'll come back for 16. Please remember to turn on your post notifications from YouTube so you know when I'm uploading a new episode. And thanks very much for listening. And by all means, leave a comment or question or any sort of acknowledgement at all, and will be greatly appreciated. Thanks very much, and see you next time. Goodbye.